Okay.
And I mean, it goes all the way back to the Quake engine days, and it's in any Quake engine game or Quake-inspired engine game is like that. You can, you know, that works that way, and ultimately, it's better for the game in terms of accuracy and understanding about what's happening. Shooting from the head would cause all sorts of problems because your head moves.
Does we were actually just talking about this the other day, but your engine, is it run off of Doom engine, a Quake engine? Which engine is
I'm coming for you,
based off of?
Barbara.
Or was it its own autonomous thing?
Yeah, so well, this is a tough question because at this point in time, how much it resembles, you know, what defines engine and how much code do you need to have in it before it's no longer someone else's engine, and you know, how many subsystems need to be rewritten or how many tools need to be created before this no longer becomes before it's someone else's engine. So, you know, the earliest that we had, like say for some of the theater features added so much to the game engine where I'm no longer sure it resembles the original game engine that we had. So it's a really good but almost impossible to answer question because it's not like we went out and licensed an engine. It's not like we went and got the Unreal Engine, licensed it, and then built tech for it, right? Okay. What we've done is developed the engine over years, all the way back to Call of Duty 4. Was really the last major time we got an engine drop, if there's such a thing. But you know, there's some point where the graphics libraries are completely different. So it's a Treyarch engine at this point, right? And you know, it's really tough to explain.
Now, Call of Duty 3 was its own engine, right?
Call of Duty 3 had its own networking engine, and it also had a Treyarch and had some Treyarch graphics work in it called NGL. It was largely a proprietary engine. It had a proprietary scripting system. But saying it's proprietary now is, you know, I mean, the game engine's about as proprietary as it gets anyway right now because of all the changes.
Right.
But it was not, Call of Duty 3 was not the Call of Duty 2 engine, if you know what I mean.
That's what I mean, yeah. When you go from COD 2 to COD 3, it feels almost like a completely different game.
It does. And this is one of the reasons, like, we don't hurry up to change engines. If you change engines, you're going to end up with a different feeling game. You have to have a Call of Duty feeling game. That requires a Call of Duty based engine.
Call of Duty 3, you guys did that in 8 months, is that right? You guys were pretty much, it's safe to say you were totally under the gun when you were making that game.
You know, it's fair to say that was a very challenging game development cycle for sure, Call of Duty 3. It was really the first time we were on 4 platforms at once. The game was made in a very short amount of time, and we didn't really have much tech. We were working with some previous tech combined with some new networking tech, which is why Call of Duty 3 is a peer-to-peer game as opposed to a client-server model like it is now.
Right.
Yeah, it was a very challenging development.
So your boss comes at you and says, "Hey, you have 9 months to make the next Call of Duty." What's your initial response when that happens?
Sir, yes, sir. How can I help you today?
Well, there's
and
that,
followed shortly by some crying after he's not in the room. You know, look, it's like, you know, you can count the number of people that have the privilege of making Call of Duty games, you know, on a couple of hands. We're very fortunate individuals. If Activision or Treyarch asks us to do something, we do what we can to make that happen. Right. So we do.
I would cry. I would cry myself to sleep. At least for the first 5 days. That's just nuts. I mean, a game that big. I didn't know that until I was researching that game when I did a video series on the history of console CODs. And
I'd like 3 years to make a game from start to finish. A good year to get our stuff organized and our thoughts together. A year to make it and a year to polish it. That would be ideal. In reality, 2 years. We end up with 2-year cycles usually now, and that's a good time. We can get a lot done in 2 years. You have to work really hard, but you can get a lot done.
Well, that kind of brings up an interesting point of where games have come and how a lot of... I just read some article recently, I can't remember which developer was saying, but he doesn't want the next generation of consoles to come because he said that developing games is becoming such an expensive and lengthy endeavor that raises a point of when does it lose its value? When does it start really losing its value? Because before it was like you could spend a year or 6 months on a game and then make, you know, a gajillion on it. Now, if you want to make a really polished game, you need at least generally 2 years. Are you looking forward to the next generation of consoles, or is that something you're sort of secretly dreading?
Console transitions are always tough. Normally there's this period of time, depending on when your game comes out, where you have to support the old platforms and the new platforms at the same time. Call of Duty 3 was an example of that. That makes the development tougher. It's not realistic to build 4 games, you know, at the same time. You can make one game at the same time. So I wouldn't say that I dread the new consoles. New consoles give us new tech and let us do new things that we don't get to do. I mean, it's almost ludicrous how much memory is in your PlayStation 3 or 360. My smartphone has more memory. So in a way, I welcome the new tech because it lets us do new things. I don't necessarily welcome the production challenges that causes, trying to support all those platforms and how complex it is to QA. And you need to support the new graphics that they're doing. You know, that's challenging, and while not blowing up the old consoles. So yeah, as a game maker, as a game producer, it's a challenging thing. I don't know if dread's the right word. As a game designer, I think it's fantastic because we can finally do things that we weren't able to do, especially if the console manufacturers, I mean, they should just pile memory into these things. Memory is so cheap. There's no reason why these consoles shouldn't have just so much memory available to them. It would make life a million times easier for developers, you know.
What's up?
No, we've got more Treyarch in the house virtually. Your buddy Josh Olin, JD 2020 is watching. You rock, Josh.
What's up,
Make
JD?
the Twitter shit happen. Let's do this. JD 2020 is watching. If you guys have questions for David or Josh Olin, go to Facebook. Drop it like it's hot.
Speaking of which, I pulled about 12 questions. You mind if I go grab those right now?
I don't mind.
Oh man, I saw him.
Can you, shit
I saw him. It's weird.